So welcome, everybody. I'm going to read the bio. I've been looking at what to cut out because I thought, it's a long bio, Jerry, but I've been looking at what to cut out and thought, okay, I couldn't find what I could cut out because everything was so interesting. So I'm going to read the bio of our keynote speaker, Dr. Omobola Johnson. Dr. Omobola Johnson is a senior partner of TLCom Capital, a venture capital firm with a focus on deal flow generation, investment, and value generation in technology companies in sub-Saharan Africa. Before joining TLCom, Omobola was Minister of Communications Technology Nigeria from 2011 to 2015, focusing on the launch and execution of the National Broadband Plan and the support of the Nigerian technology industry, including the pioneering involvement of the government in a local VC fund and a network of startup incubators. Before serving in the Nigerian government, she gained over 25 years of consulting experience with Accenture, including 5 years as country managing director, working with companies in a variety of industries, transforming them into more competitive and dynamic organizations. Omobola serves on the board of a number of leading Nigerian and multinational corporations, including MTN Nigeria and Liquid Telecoms Holdings, and is a board chair of Guinness Nigeria PLC. Omobola has a bachelor's in electrical and electronic engineering from the University of Manchester, a master's in digital electronics from King's College London, and a doctorate in business administration from the School of Management of Cranfield. She is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award from Cranfield University and the Lagos Business School. She's also a mother, a wife of one husband. And she started off as being a friend, but she's now my sister. Her son is my godson. So if only for her son's sake, I love her. So please welcome with me, Dr. Omobola Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Olamide, Pastor Olamide, Auntie Olamide, all of the above. Good morning, ladies, those that are here and those that are online. I was one of those that was late, but at least I sent a message and I'm running late because I knew you'd start on time, and I got here like 10 minutes late, but and they just started. But it's really nice to be here this morning. I'm going to read a speech because I don't speak extempo, so that I don't forget anything, because there are quite a few points that I don't want to forget. So today I've been asked to speak about the theme of this hybrid conference, which is the Kaleidoscope. And I don't know, I'm of that age, I don't know about those of you that where kaleidoscopes were actually toys that we had when we were small. And if you remember, they were like in a tube, and you turn it and you see the different colors. And so before the days of PS2s and all of that, we had, a kaleidoscope was a regular feature in a child's toy box. And I remember having several. You would break them, then they buy another one. We had several of them, but they were great toys. But a kaleidoscope is actually more than a toy. It's actually a scientific device. And I'm going to explain the science of it so that I can make some points around why we should look at life like a kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope is an optical instrument. It has two or more reflecting surfaces, two mirrors, and they tilt to each other at an angle, so that one or more of the objects on one end of the mirrors are shown as a symmetrical pattern. So you've got two mirrors shining on one object, and they're shown as, when you have mirrors, you see the object several times over and over again. And the reflections that I see are actually, that the mirrors are reflecting, are actually loose glass in a container, and loose colored glass. So the loose colored glass, every time you turn the tube, the colored glass moves and you see a different pattern. And so that's what a kaleidoscope is. And just like a kaleidoscope, our lives are made up of constantly shifting patterns, colors and scenes that represent the ever-changing nature of life. And if you use the analogy of the kaleidoscope for our life, you can say the loose pieces of glass in the tube could represent all the people, parents, siblings, children, friends, and the things, cars, homes, degrees, awards, that we hold dear. Everything that we hold dear is in this kaleidoscope, and it's in that loose, they represent the loose pieces of glass. And the tube in which the glass resides, you can take that as time. And every time you turn the tube, you're turning the clock of time. So like the kaleidoscope, the pieces of glass, and the tube, the passage of time, it brings a different perspective. Every time you turn it, it's a different perspective. Every time that goes, every hour, every day, every year, things change, and that's the kaleidoscope of life. Because, you know, life happens. Loved ones are going to pass, children are going to be born, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, so those pieces of glass are changing all the time. Friendships will be made and broken, marriages will be made and broken, houses will be traded up for better ones, and sometimes wives and husbands are traded up for better ones, supposedly. And all these things will come and go. And that's the loose pieces of glass are all those things that come and go in our lives. And even if they don't disappear, like if we lose our loved ones, or even if they're not traded up, they will still change. I've been married for 35 years, and my relationship with my husband, as many of you who are married will know, has changed. It's very different from when we first got married. I see him differently, he sees me differently. And time and chance has changed us for better and sometimes for worse. You know, children have come, they've flown the nest now. Finances have been good and they've not been so good. You know, if you recall in the days of the silent treatment where you wouldn't speak to each other to punish each other for days, you know, that really, you know, it's a very blunt tool now, because after 35 years of marriage, there's just too much history and too much to say that, you know, 30 minutes of silent treatment, I think, well, I can't be bothered. Yeah, let's just, you know. So this is, you know, so even when you're in seemingly the same situation of marriage, things just are always changing around you, just like the glass in the kaleidoscope. So our journey of life can be very much likened to a kaleidoscope. One turn of time, we're living our best lives, basking in the warmth of career success, wonderful relationships, and life is just good. Next turn of the kaleidoscope of life, and we are facing some of the greatest challenges or adversity and trying to navigate our way through that adversity. I'm always haunted by scenes of shooting in the US, whether it's an individual shooting or a mass shooting. And the most recent and the most graphic for me being the recent shooting of the US, the CEO of United Care, the healthcare company. You know, 1 minute we see him, you know, striding very purposefully early in the morning. He's going down the street on his way to give a keynote, just like this one. And literally the next minute, he's gone down in cold blood on the street. And you know, sometimes when these things happen, my thoughts are not really with those that, you know, that have died, but it's always to the living. You know, imagine the upheaval to his wife, just, you know, a few weeks to Christmas, his wife, his children, how their lives have just changed, literally in the blink of an eye. And as I reflect on this ever-changing patterns of life, one thing that I have discovered is that, you know, whether it's success or happiness or joy or challenges or adversity, which receive very different emotional responses. When we're joyful, we laugh and we smile. When we're sad or in adversity, we cry. You know, different emotional responses, but they offer us the same opportunity, exactly the same opportunity. And that is the opportunity to grow and to learn, to discover our strength, to discover our passions, what really drives us, to confront our fears and doubts, and come to terms with our limitations, and recognizing how insignificant we really are in the scheme of things. And that's what adversity or joy, it all brings that. If you're in a joyful place, it's a time to learn and grow. If you're in a sad place, it's a time to learn and grow. If you're facing adversity or challenges, it's just a time to learn and grow. So while your emotional responses are different, it offers you the same opportunity. And this is really where I want to focus the rest of this keynote. How do we navigate these ever-changing scenes, this kaleidoscope of life, so that, you know, so that we're growing and learning at each turn of the tube, each turn of time, and being the version of ourselves that God has called us to be. I want to share 5 practices that have helped me in my own journey of life. And I will say that, you know, as I share these 5 practices, I will, you know, full disclosure, they are not practices that I practice all the time. Everybody is a work in progress. But I find that, you know, when I'm reminded of them, I go back and practice them. And I hope that they will resonate with you and you'll also learn from it. The first is to be grateful and to be thankful. Appreciate the beauty and the wonder of life's ever-changing kaleidoscope. There's a hymn that many of us will know. It's through all the changing scenes of life. I'll sing it. I'll sing the first verse. Through all the changing scenes of life, in trouble and in joy, the praises of my God shall still my heart and tongue employ. It's one of my favorite hymns because the author of the hymn encourages us to have the same response to each changing scene of life. Praise God. In trouble or in joy, just praise him. And this is also validated, as Pastor Derele said, everything you need is just in that Bible. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, it says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And I remember not really understanding this verse for a long time, because it's very easy to give thanks when things are going well. I know there was a time on, was it Instagram or Twitter, when small girl, big God, things are going so well. Little me, this big God has done so many things for me. But how can you give thanks when things are not going, so well? Where your husband has been shot dead, like this poor woman, when you're jilted at the altar, But this was explained to me better by Pastor Taiwo Dukoya, of blessed memory. And he said, the operative words in this verse is in and all. You give thanks in all circumstances. You don't give thanks for circumstances. You don't give thanks to God because, you're in adversity. You give thanks to God in your adversity. You give thanks to God in your joy. And gratitude and thanksgiving are spiritual choices. You choose to be grateful. A grateful heart renews your mind and gives you a brand new perspective. I think last year we were given a gratitude journal by a fellowship I'm a part of. And again, this is one of the things that I say, do what I say, not what I do. But I'm not regular, but I do try and fill that gratitude journal. And we had a challenge, just 3 things every day, 3 things that you're grateful for. And I did it over time, not consistently, but I did it. And you find that just little things that you're grateful for every single day, there's always something to be grateful for. No matter what you've gone through that day, no matter how bad that day has been, there's something to be grateful for. So for those of you that don't have a gratitude journal, I would recommend it to you. Don't be bound by the fact that you have to write in it every day. Every time you remember, just pick it up and write in it. It just reminds you of being grateful. So number 1, be grateful and be thankful in all circumstances, because that is what that's God's will for us. The second practice I want to share is to live in the present and be mindful of today. Again, I have another song for this one. And this is one that I heard, I can still remember it many, many years ago when the television was black and white. I don't know why this thing stuck in my head. It must be at least 40, 50 years ago. And there was it was a gospel song, this white woman singing the song. And it goes, yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus. Tomorrow may never be mine. Help me to live one day at a time. And for some reason, the song, the words, the tune have stayed in my mind for 40, 50 years. I don't know why. And of course, I pray that many tomorrows are going to be ours in Jesus' name. But the admonishment of this song, again, is to be mindful of today, It doesn't mean you should live recklessly and you shouldn't plan as if there was no tomorrow. It's about being mindful and present of today. And don't let the regrets of yesterday or the anxiety of tomorrow steal today's joy. Because many of us allow that to happen. We're in today. Oh, we did this last year. We did this last year. We're still regretting the things that we've done that we can do nothing about. We're in today. We're worrying about tomorrow. What, will I have enough money? Will I have children? Will they be okay? And we're stealing the joy that we can enjoy today. So thanking God for what you have and not worrying about what you don't have. Again, I'm reminded of an example that I gave. I love my house. I live in a lovely house, but I don't like where it is. It's in a compound with 6 other houses. And you know how it is, you live with people that are not of the same mind. They don't have the same, you're not of the same mind. It can be just really hard. And I just used to get so agitated and so upset about, they did this and they did that and they put the paper here and they tidied the place and everything. And I was sharing this on another fellowship group and I thought, you know what? Why don't you just be thankful? You have a house. And the house happens to be in Ikoyi. So really, that's not such a bad thing. So be thankful for what you have. And when I was sharing, another young lady shared her own story, which was she also has a house and she loves the house, but she just, the house is difficult to maintain. If it's not the pump, it's the AC. If it's not the AC, there's always something that you have to do. And she was envying her friends who lived in flats. They would just call the maintenance manager. This is not working, And they thought to herself, actually, I live in a lovely house, and many of my peers don't live in it. So why don't I just be grateful for the house and forget about the wahala of, maintaining the house? So really, those are very small examples of how we forget to be grateful, to live in today and in the moment, and we're hankering after things that don't really matter. The third thing I want to share is about courage. And for me, this is one that I'm a work in progress. And we can use the analogy of the kaleidoscope here. You don't have any idea. Every time you turn that tube, when you're playing with the kaleidoscope, you have no idea what the pattern is going to be like. You have absolutely no idea. And it's a bit like life, But if you don't turn the tube, you're not going to see a new pattern. It's going to be the same pattern. That's going to be really boring. Thank you. So I was talking about the third one, which is around being courageous and turning the tube of the kaleidoscope, which is the time to just see that different pattern. Don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't let past failures and past hurts determine your future. You've been hurt once in a relationship, and you take the decision that you never want to get close to anybody. You failed an exam, an important exam, and you decide that line of profession is not for you. You make a mistake, and you promise yourself that you'll never make that kind of mistake again. And when you do these things, you put a limit on your life that God did not put in the first place. There's a saying that fortune favors the bold. I remember, when I was being appointed as minister, I wasn't courageous at all. It was the last thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to Abuja. I didn't want to be in a goldfish bowl. I really did not want to do it. I was very happy where I was in Lagos. I didn't know nobody, none of that minister in Abuja nonsense as far as I was concerned. And this was really about not being courageous. Because, I remember speaking to my dad then, and my father said to me, well, if you don't take this opportunity, and you're not bold in taking this opportunity, please don't ever complain to me that Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that, they did this, because you've been given that opportunity, and you've got to be courageous and bold. No matter how scared you are, just go out there and do it. And I did. And I can tell you now that what I'm doing now, where I am today, is because I was courageous enough to take that step and go to Abuja and be a minister. So, regardless of how life unfolds, remember I said it's adversity. It can turn out to be good even when you're bold. It can turn out to be not so good. But just remember that regardless of how it unfolds, if things don't go quite as expected when you took that bold step, be grateful, be thankful you had the opportunity, and just move on. The fourth thing I want to share is about navigating this kaleidoscope of life is to be adaptable. The way you cope with shifting sands and the unpredictability of life, because life is completely unpredictable, is to be able to be malleable, to be able to bend, to be flexible, to adjust to the different changing scenes of life, to new conditions, to changing circumstances. You miss opportunities to learn and grow if you're not adaptable. But here I want to also correct a popular misconception about adaptability. It's not about not standing for anything, being blown about like a candle in the wind. There's some things in your life that you just have to hold dear, that must never change. And these are the values that you hold dear, the principles by which you live. Those things will never change regardless of the context that you're in. And the Ten Commandments is a very good place to start. It's in the Old Testament, it's the Old Covenant, but it's still relevant in today, the today of the covenant of redemption and the covenant of reconciliation and forgiveness. 10 Commandments: don't lie, don't steal, don't covet, love God. You know them all. Those are the things that if you anchor your life on those things, you know that if being adaptable or malleable causes you to violate any one of those things, then you know that that is not the kind of adaptability that I'm talking about. But it's about being flexible to things that change. If something changes, just think, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad after all. I mean, for instance, take the example of my going to Abuja. It wasn't in my plan to be a minister. I had a very clear plan of what I wanted to do when I was in Accenture. And, this 4-year deviation just kind of disrupted those plans. I said, okay, fine, let me just go. But then what happened was that by the time I got back onto that path again, it was a very accelerated path. And that's adaptability. If I'd said to myself, sorry, I don't want to do it because it wasn't part of the plan, then I can't even imagine the kind of opportunities that I would have missed. The fifth and final one is to show love and kindness. This may seem a little bit odd. How does showing love and kindness help you to navigate this ever-changing kaleidoscope that is our life? I have found that by thinking less of yourself and more of others, by showing love, being kind, forgiving others, and giving to others in need, actually makes us more prepared to take the good with the bad. Showing love and kindness helps you to put yourself in other people's shoes, know the adversity that other people are going through, and it prepares you to be more resilient if adversity comes your way, or more grateful when good things do come your way. So those are the 5 things. I hope they've resonated with you. Like I said, you know, these are, I try and live by them, not all the time. There are times when, you know, it's just very hard to be grateful and thinking of all the things that have gone wrong that day. But of course, then you remind yourself that actually I should be grateful in this circumstance. So these are 5 things that I think will help us to navigate this kaleidoscope of life. Everything, every day is changing. Every day brings new things, new opportunities, new challenges, new adversity, new joy. But it's just, again, like I said, it's the same response. You give thanks, same emotional response, but it's an opportunity for you to learn and to grow. And so, you know, as Pastor Olamide says, you know, when she shares her words of knowledge, you can adopt these life practices if they resonate with you, but if they don't, you can set them aside for further contemplation. And when they do resonate with you, then you can please just practice them. But as I say, you know, all I can say is that combined, they worked for me in my life. In conclusion, life is a kaleidoscope of constantly changing scenes, patterns, and colors. It's a journey of discovery, of growth, and of transformation. And it really is up to us to make the most of it, to navigate its twists and turns, and to find the beauty, wonder, and magic in every moment of life. Thank you.
Can you sit here? Okay. Please, more so we're just going to have a little conversation. That was good. It was good. And the first thing I'm going to say is that a lot of the people, don't let me say a lot, the young people don't know what a kaleidoscope is, which is a real shame. Because
I had one to bring actually, but...
no, she said she was looking for one and it was difficult to find one. Yeah. Meanwhile, when we were little, that was the go-to toy. And so, you know, when we were saying kaleidoscope, a lot of people are thinking, what's that? I'm not coming, Joe. I don't know what it means, you know. And for me, that is sort of a challenge of today. And so my first question is going to be, how do we navigate... Okay, you're in technology. So technology is supposed to improve things. So to a certain extent, it has improved things. But to a certain extent, it has made things slide. How do we marry what is good in the past? Because we're looking at it, kaleidoscope, you know, depending on where you're looking, you know, some things may be relevant today that were not relevant 10 years ago. Some things were relevant 10 years ago, should still be relevant, but are not. How do we navigate that? You know, how do we marry what is archaic but good with what is mediocre, but that's what we've got?
You know, I think because I'm in tech, I fully understand what you mean. And I think it goes back to what I said around, there's some things that just hold true. Whether there's AI and ChatGPT or Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is, there's just some things that always hold true. And the way that I navigated, the way that I was suggesting you navigated, is to just hold on to those things. Technology can be a distraction to your life. And one of your values and principles should be that, you know, you want to remain focused on the things that matter to people. You want to remain focused on, you know, when you see, I'll give an example, when you see on Instagram, people that are living these sort of glamorous, wonderful lives, you know behind it, it's all like smoke and mirrors, it's all, you know, just stand firm in your truth. I'm who God created me to be. They can be whoever they want to be. I'm who God created me to be. So really, it's about just standing firm on those values that will be true regardless of what is going on in the world. And that's how you navigate, because otherwise, if you're trying to change with the world, yes, of course you must change in the sense that, yes, you have to do your transfers by, you know, by mobile apps, not go to the bank and all that. You can do those kind of things. But there's some values that you must hold true to yourself, you must hold yourself true to, regardless of what is happening around you. And that's really how you navigate it.
So I'm going to come to, how do I get those values?
Yes, I remember
because that is a real challenge.
It is. And I remember I was asked to give a talk to some young people around these values and these, how do you get these values? It may sound, I mean, the way that I got my values were 2 ways. It was the way that I was raised, and also the Christian values. I was, you know, born a Christian, brought up a Christian, and I've become a better Christian over time. And I think those are the 2 values. If you're not taught that doing something is wrong and should not be done, and I remember I always give the example, then you'll never know. I remember when we were growing up, if you lied, my dad would ask something, you would maybe you broke something, and they would say, who broke? You say, you don't know. or it was, and you know, in those days, serious punishment, you were beaten. And my dad, as he was beating you, he'd ask you, why am I beating you? Because I broke the cup? No. Why am I beating you? Because no. Why am I beating you? Because I lied. And then he starts beating you. And so now, to lie, it's like in your head that somebody's going to beat you. Be like, so, you know, it's those things that just the way that you're raised. And of course, not everybody has that opportunity. But of course, the way you're raised is one way you acquire those values. And secondly, your religion. I mean, Christianity is not the only religion. There's people of other faiths where that faith is what holds you. And particularly when you're in contexts where people are not of the same faith or of the same values, and you're swimming against the tide all the time, but you remember those things. Remember where you're coming from. Remember your home. Remember your values. Remember your faith. That's how you get those values. It sounds, and so, you know, sometimes things like RIBS, where there are people that are unfortunate that they haven't been raised in those kind of homes, broken homes, whatever it is, that's life. But if they get these kind of opportunities to know what is right and what is wrong, then they can start to live by those values.
So how do we include people like that in our circles?
Well, I guess it's again
because you know you go into the workplace, okay? Because we're speaking to the young people who are going into the workplace, and there's just all kinds of people. How do you navigate, you know, just all those sorts of people? You have been at, you know, the peak, and you're still at the peak. How do you accommodate those sort of people?
It goes back
how
to...
do you as a leader, but then also how does the person who is not the leader, who's in there, how do you, you know?
It goes back to, I think it's number 5 that I shared. It's about showing love and kindness. And really, you know, and again, this is where I said, you know, I'm a work in progress, like many of us are. It's seeing people as God sees them. So when somebody annoys you, somebody comes to the office, all kinds of people, you're thinking to yourself, well, they didn't have the benefit of a loving, stable home like I did. They may be in a difficult, broken marriage, a difficult marriage. So you have to see them as God sees them. And that's why they respond in the way that they do. So it's really about showing love and kindness to everybody you come across. It's hard, and I always give the example of the people that come and test you the most, your domestics. My driver, just every day, without fail, I will shout out, and then I say, Omobola, but you just promised yourself. You know, yesterday I was just telling him, why are you so arrogant? Why can't you just do what you're told? You know, but then you stop yourself and you think, okay, show love and kindness, and that's the way that you do it. Honestly, it's very difficult because we live in an environment where there's so much. There's so much going around, but just remember that they're not you. See them as God sees them. God's children. They're also works in progress, and that's the way that you navigate this thing.
I'll tell you how my own mind has been changed, because she's not here yet, so I can talk about it, right? My youngest, I guess maybe because of the things they read and the things they whatever, she's changed my mind a lot. So there was this young lady, I think we all saw the story, who, with another person, they murdered a man for a Rolex watch. Do you remember? A Nigerian girl. And I remember watching it and feeling sorry for her, only because she was like, yay, my mother. You know, she even in the thick of it, she said, my mother, right? And so when I was speaking and I was saying, but you know, she's greedy, she's whatever. And Ibiyemi said, why is she greedy? Why does she want that bag? It's the society, you know? Is it wrong for her? She doesn't realize that you should live your life, you know? She feels that I want what everybody else wants, you know? Why can't I have it? Yes, she went to an extreme to get it, you know? But I'm just saying, you know, just what you're saying, that treat everybody with as much kindness as you can, because you do not know, you know, where they're coming from. Because I had judged her that Josh is greedy. But he was like, really, is it that she's just greedy? If she's greedy, why is she greedy? You know, and all of that. Anyway, thanks. I also wanted to, you know, there's this, this thing that says the grass is always greener on the other side. And I was talking with one of my children, Victory. We were actually having a podcast, doing a podcast. And he was saying, oh, it's actually science, right? That the grass is, this gives me the impression of the kaleidoscope, that the grass is always greener on the other side, because it is in fraction, it is physics, Okay, so the grass is always greener. How do I, so we're in the times of escaping, because they say it's not immigrating, that is escaping from Nigeria. Okay, how do I navigate this? Should I go? Should I stay? What should I really be doing? Because they say when you get to the grass, you now see that it was actually physics that made it look green. It is not green. So what do we do? Because going to Arizona to find out that the grass is not green is a far place, and you've gone through a lot of stress. So how do I navigate that?
That's a really tough one, because when you look at the reality of or what people see in Nigeria as, there's no future for them here. So it's a very compelling story to go abroad.
Is there no future though?
No, there is.
Okay.
But I guess, I get asked a lot, and I remember it was the reverse. But let me answer the question first. I guess you have to ask whoever it is, and it's this sort of, ask them, what are you going to do there that you can't do here? Oh, my children. For a lot of them, for all the young people, it's about their children. My children can go to better schools, blah, blah, blah. And then you ask them, okay, so what about the values that we hold dear in this country, regardless of all that goes on, the corruption? Corruption is just a very small fraction of the population. All the values and things that we hold dear here, that they don't hold dear, that they've got to discard it in those countries. How are you going to raise your children in that environment? It's going to be much, much more difficult. And you go through these questions, asking them to really think about it. Because for many of the people that actually leave, quite a few of them are in really good jobs here. Quite a few of them, and part of it is this, the grass is always greener. It's a challenge sometimes where they say to you, I went to St. Saviour's, I went to Grange, I went to whatever it is. What I'm earning right now, I can't afford to send my children to those schools. But you have to come to reality. Okay, you may not be able to. But St. Saviour's and Grange are not the only schools in Lagos. There are other schools in Lagos that are very good, affordable. You may have to do a little bit as a parent, but those are the schools in our time. Things have moved on. You don't have to go to these schools.
I want to say to you that the parents in St. Saviour's take lesson teacher, which I find really absurd. But after paying so much, yeah.
So I guess, the answer is, it's just getting people to understand and see. Let's talk about the kaleidoscope again, and see the good in what they're looking at now. It can't all be bad. When you get to these places, you're starting from scratch because you haven't been in the system, you don't have the network, you didn't go to those right schools and everything. So you're basically starting from scratch, But here, where you have the connections, the network, the uncles, the aunties, it's a lot easier for you to navigate. So when things change in those kind of environments, navigation is just really tough. But it's a hard sell because they will come back to you with all kinds of stories. But what I'm sure about, and I'm sure about it, is that they're all going to come back. Because it's only a fraction, they're already coming back. It's only a fraction of them. And when you talk to young women today, many of them that are early marriages or about to get married, they will tell you that they don't want to raise their children abroad. And one is, from a practical perspective, it's difficult. And secondly, you're just battling against so many things. I mean, if you think, I can't remember who was telling me, in schools, primary schools in the United States, they ask you, do you want to be a girl or a boy? Do you feel like a girl or a boy? He's barely knows him or herself, and they're asking them these kind of questions. You never get that in a school here. And if you did, the teacher will be sacked the next day. But it's those things that just confuse. And for many people that live in abroad, they know that I just can't even deal with this. So I'd just rather come back home and raise my children. And the final thing I would say is that I always tell them that, it's fine. You can go abroad, but who's going to fix this country? You see that you've all left and you've left all the challenges and everything, and you think Nigeria is going to get better and you're going to come back. We have got to fix this country ourselves because nobody's going to help us. And if we're sending all our best brains and everything, we're not going to fix it.
Yeah. Even though people have gotten to the point where they don't care. It's like, however, But one thing I think I'd like to share is the fact that a lot of the people who left in our time, when we look at where we all are now, we're in a better place than they are. They come back here and they wonder, how are you people living in the places you are living, or how are you,
Because there's more, for the Nigerian, there's more opportunity in Nigeria than there is anywhere else. So when you hear, it's only a minute amount of people that really do well, and you hear about them.
Yeah.
And when you look at their backgrounds, they're probably in that system from when they were young. Nobody leaves Nigeria at 40 or 30. and goes and makes it big in America or US. I haven't seen the person yet. When you hear about these stories, it's somebody that was in the system. We're very proud that they're Nigerians, but they're not, they weren't raised and born here. So, this is where the opportunity is.
Because there's a question here that I had looked at, and it was talking about stability, okay, in our lives just generally. How do we just maintain some stability, Kaleidoscope, it's changing all the time. You twist it here, it changes. How do I just maintain that just constant stability? It's in Nigeria. I'm not even, well, obviously we're here. How do I maintain that stability? I mean, I remember once, one of my children was speaking to somebody who says, well, there is no stability, so it's a level playing field for all of us. But how do you, in your own mind, maintain that stability? I mean, I loved all the points you had already given us, because gratitude helps in maintaining stability. But how on a day-to-day, can I be centered?
I mean, look, I think it's what you said, in the sense that it's got to be an internal peace, because the world is changing all around you. Every day something changes. Every day something will upset you. But it's just getting to a point and training your mind to have that internal peace and responding, regardless of how, challenging or difficult, or the way that you want to responding in a way that is not emotional, but is more intense. So, for instance, an example. I remember a very long time ago, I got to a hotel. I'd been booked and everything, and they said that there wasn't any room. And I said, well, okay, so what do we do now? And the guy got me a room eventually, and he said, madam, I like the way you responded. Because, of course, I could have been ranting, I booked it, and if you don't get me a room now, I'm going to That's the way that we respond. So it's just that training your mind for that inner peace, because I can't tell you that nothing's going to be, the whole world is upside down. And it's going to be even more upside down when President Trump gets there, It is upside down, whether it is Ukraine or Syria or Nigeria, wherever you are, it's upside down. And if you want a world of stability and peace, you're never going to get it. So that stability and peace is going to come internally. And also the stability and peace in your own home. And it goes back to what you say on your platform, where we're talking about declarations for our home. Yes. You declare these things for your home. There'll be peace. It's a new time. There'll be hope. All of those things you got to declare in your mind and in your home, because once you step out, you're in an external context. That kaleidoscope, everything is changing around you. But it's another way in which you learn how to navigate. Just having that internal peace, and where you have your circle of control. Having that internal peace.
Identifying your circle of control.
And just,
And just giving it up for the ones that you can't control. Absolutely. Fantastic, fantastic. Are there any questions? Does anybody want to ask any question? Fantastic. Well, you do. Okay.
Thank you. Do I stand up?
Just feel free.
Okay. Thank you very much for the speech and everything. So from the 5 points, number 3, which spoke about courage, I'm going to use myself as an example. Working as a creative, we deal with certain issues, and one of it is the imposter syndrome, thinking of, am I good enough to maybe go on this adventure, this venture, or whatnot. And it's, from a personal perspective, it's affected me a lot, because I used to be very timid. Not so much now, because if you're timid, there's no way you're going to make any money in this Lagos. So I just wanted to ask about being courageous, especially people who deal with, self-esteem issues or imposter syndrome as a young person trying to be relevant in Nigeria right now. What advice can you give that can help you, somewhat believe in yourself more? I would really love to hear things that maybe helped you and how it can, possibly help me. Thank you.
Now that's a great point and a great question, because we're all dealing with imposter syndrome. Even now, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome. So it's actually a very good question. For me, what has helped me personally is just surrounding yourself with people that are your cheerleaders, who will always encourage you. Like I said, when I was going to be minister, I didn't want to do it. My father said to me, if you don't do it, then don't complain, and you take that step and you do it. But also knowing that you have people around you that are praying for you, that will push you forward. And even if you fall, they'll be there to catch you. Because being courageous means you're taking a risk. And sometimes you do it and you fail, you do it or you succeed. And if you fail, they're not going to say to you, oh, we told you. They're going to say to you, don't worry, dust yourself up, get up and do it again. I think that's, for me, that's the most important thing. Whether it's your family, your friends, don't surround yourself with people who will always put you down and say, you can't do it too. This is how they do it there. So if you find those people who you can trust and who will be your cheerleaders and your supporters and encouragers, fantastic. If you find people who, beyond the sort of physical encouragement, who will also pray for you, I think that's even better. And also, again, it's to train your mind. You know, that imposter syndrome, everybody here goes through it. It's to just, again, talk to yourself. You know, if she can do it, I can do it too. And I'm not lying to you. I'm 62 years old, and that imposter syndrome is still there. But it's a case of, how hard can it be? You know, and if I'm here, you know, somebody thinks I'm good enough to be here. And so let me just take advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omobola Johnson. Bring the plaque. I'm not the one supposed to be giving out the plaque. The person is late. So we're going to find the person. But honestly, on behalf of RIBS, because I know that, you know, Saturday mornings are precious in Nigeria, especially in December. If you're not in your house, you are at a wedding. Yes. If you're not at a wedding, you're at a birthday. Anyway, you know, for you to have taken time out to have written, because some of us, we don't write like this, but you know, she wrote it, she typed it out with point number 1, number 2, and so we really appreciate you. And we say that on behalf of the RIBS community, we present you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.